So just the other day on the channel, we discussed the newest update to Nintendo Switch Online that was announced in the form of a brand new N64 title and where that should set our expectations for whether or not we would see a roadmap of games going forward. And in today's video, I want to dive into the DLC side of the expansion pack, break down and discuss why some people are thinking that Nintendo may be around the corner for announcing new packs into the service, go over which packs would be good fits, what we could see added in the future, and have that ultimate discussion on whether or not we can expect more DLC packs to come to NSO Plus expansion pack anytime soon. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today we are looking at Nintendo Switch Online and discussing specifically what the DLC plans may look like for the future of this service, as clearly since it was launched, it was kind of a surprise addition when they featured the Animal Crossing New Horizons DLC being bundled in, and I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of viewed this as something of a last-minute adjustment to help justify that $50 annual cost for the service. And so at the time, for me personally, I was not the biggest fan of this decision. However, since then, we got the announcement, and still one of the biggest draws of the service for me so far, which I was already going to be a subscriber anyway, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, which has 6 total waves and 48 total additional tracks that will be added into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe over the course of the next year and a half, kind of changed my perspective on that DLC being added in there, because maybe Nintendo's going to do a revolving door strategy and just continue to add in DLC packs while some older ones may get phased out ultimately. That remains to be seen. It's still pretty notable to have a full price $25 DLC just thrown into a $50 annual price point for the expansion pack as part of the subscription. Now, since then, we saw the addition of the Splatoon 2 Octo DLC, which essentially opened the door to Nintendo looking to their back catalog of games to add in and provide even more value, slash it being really a marketing ploy to, of course, help the upcoming launch of Splatoon 3, giving players a reason to hop back into Splatoon 2 and check out that DLC if they hadn't previously purchased it and they were expansion pack subscribers. It's a no-brainer, and it also gets people talking about Splatoon again. And I was curious to see, does Nintendo actually add in all of the mainline first-party title DLC going forward? Is that actually what they're going to do with the expansion pack? And we actually saw that question answered at the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct, where we ultimately got the outline for their entire expansion pass, and it does require a separate payment of $29.99 to access all that content, essentially shutting the door on the idea that Nintendo might just throw every major mainline DLC that does come out in the future into this expansion pack, which I think would have been wishful thinking to begin with, but we didn't know how far Nintendo may go with what value they are trying to add to this expansion pack service to get new subscribers. So all of that brings us to where we are at today with the expansion pack service, with 3 separate DLC packs all available for download as part of the membership. And now the question becomes, does Nintendo dip into a mixture of back catalog of games as well as support future unannounced DLC packs in the future? And we have to kind of dive into where the idea of this video stemmed from, and that is because recently Nintendo did put out an interesting trailer highlighting Nintendo Switch Online, specifically how to download downloadable content, and also had a lot of focus on multiple ways to access that, which you will know I made a video on discussing how that Nintendo Switch Online app is really interesting, and they put a lot of work into it, and we really don't know the full reason that it's there other than just a way to consolidate everything. And I went on to theorize that maybe that is the groundwork of an app for the future of what Nintendo has a larger plan and larger vision for the service that we have yet to really fully realize. And maybe when we're finally talking about that new Nintendo Switch hardware, whether that be a Nintendo Switch 2 or just whatever the future direction is for Nintendo, maybe they finally roll forward their online service offerings and don't do that hard reset like we've seen them do essentially every other generation to this point, and just roll our Nintendo counts forward as they've mentioned in investor meetings that they are intending to do. And something like that Nintendo Switch Online app may ultimately be the interface and encompass all of the different DLC access links, as well as the vast library of consoles that will ultimately become a part of the service, especially if we talk about things like Game Boy family of systems, one day GameCube support, and Wii, you name it. If Nintendo wants wants to truly create a Disney Plus style experience with their classic content, they very well may go that route. One interesting note, and shout out to RGT85, a video that he made recently, highlighted the fact that why would Nintendo actually go out of their way to explain how to download DLC as part of the service when that's already been a thing and very self-explanatory this entire time? Isn't Nintendo just wasting marketing dollars for no reason, or are they kind of planning something for maybe a more casual audience that would Google search a video like how to download DLC for Nintendo Switch Online? Like, are they going to expand this DLC side of the service significantly further than what we know it to support and include right now? And that I found to be a very interesting idea, because I think if we are talking about monthly game updates from things like new N64 titles, we get those batch drops of Sega Genesis maybe every other month, and then we have a rotating month where NES and SNES gets updated. Besides the future of consoles that we can expect, that's already a pretty compelling service at that point in time. Then let's throw in things like every few months we get a brand new DLC expansion pack thrown in there. Well, now we are really talking about driving home value, and there are some interesting ones on the table that we will start with, initially focusing on the already announced and released DLC packs that Nintendo could in theory throw into the service. One of which we will start off with, I think is very unlikely, because the opportunity to do this would have already come and gone, and that is for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, a $29.99 value DLC pack to be thrown into the service. I think if there was a logical timeline to see this DLC added in, we would have seen it in the launch build up to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Clearly that has come and gone now, and so I don't think that we get DLC thrown into the service just because for a previous game after it's already had a sequel release. One big one that I think would be a huge win and could even drive additional expansion pack subscribers, especially as we get closer to the launch buildup of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, would be to throw in the Breath of the Wild original DLC at a $19.99 value and just let all players download and experience the additional hours of content, side quests, and champions main quest of the DLC, get the Master Cycle, have all of the fun to be had in Breath of the Wild, and having that Zelda emblem up as part of a selling point of the service, I think goes a very long way, and we are clearly far enough into the sales and the life cycle of Breath of the Wild, the original game, that I don't think it hurts their bottom line at all to go ahead and throw that into the service, and it can only help drive additional subscriptions for people that maybe passed up on the DLC. So similar to how we saw Splatoon 2 get its classic DLC added in, I think if Nintendo is smart, they do the same thing with Breath of the Wild in the future leading up to the launch of Breath of the Wild 2. Now, another game you could easily create that same kind of hype with would be Pokemon Sword and Shield, as it has $34.99 DLC available. And as we get closer to the release of Scarlet and Violet, which clearly we are talking about the Pokemon Company and Game Freak now, and not exclusively just first party Nintendo, but they're such close partners, I think you call them first party or close to at the end of the day. And you could definitely drum up some hype and excitement, getting people back into Pokemon Sword and Shield that didn't purchase the expansion DLC, save them the $30 investment and throw it into the expansion pack, and most likely only boost the hype, talk, and sales around Pokemon Scarlet and Violet when they ultimately release. Closing out the list of already announced DLC and already available DLC that Nintendo may choose to throw into the service, this would be a game changer and a big one, and I hope it happens, but it may not. We are talking about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC, valued at $34.99 for both of the fighter packs. And while I don't think we're anywhere near a new Smash Bros. Experience, probably we're realistically not talking about that until far into, or at least a year or two at the bare minimum, into Nintendo's next console generation. I do think that the extensive lineup of fighters and the cost that it comes along with it would be a genius marketing idea to continue to get people back into playing Smash Bros, playing online, playing with characters that maybe they passed up, or if they bought them individually didn't get the entire thing, and now they have a reason to go get re-immersed in that game. And you can argue that maybe because of the cost of the licensing of some of the fighters that we saw added in, that it doesn't make a ton of financial sense for Nintendo to do it, and it would really only make sense if it truly does drive new additional subscribers to the expansion pack service, which I would argue that it would. But then we're also getting very DLC heavy if we do include all of those packs, but I do think it will be smart for Nintendo to continue to support this going forward. A couple unannounced DLC packs that I think would make a ton of sense, and these are by no means confirmed, but you have games out there like Mario Party Superstars that actually got a survey pushed out to various users suggesting that would you pay for Mario Party Superstars DLC? We talked about it on the channel when it broke, and it's still one of those titles that I think, like, why does that not have DLC? When we see all of these continued free updates and roadmaps for these Mario sports games, why are you putting out a fantastic Mario Party content experience out of the gate and then just totally not supporting it at all in the future in form of paid DLC? I will pay $25 for another 5 boards and a bunch of new mini games. I think it makes a lot of sense to continue that game, and especially for fans who grew up in the classic era of Mario Party gaming before the motion controls got into things. This is a walk down memory lane for you, and it is just a ton of fun to hop into with friends. And I think that if it does get DLC, throw it into the expansion pack as a perk, and it just adds that much more value to the service. And then lastly, I think if Nintendo wants to remain serious with DLC, and at some point they may have to kick off some of the original packs that came with it, but throw in things like future DLC for Splatoon 3 after that has been out and has the DLC available, and things like Breath of the Wild 2, which I also speculate will have DLC alongside of it like the original game would. And then you're really driving home the point that your Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack service is really a must buy for all Nintendo Switch owners. And I don't think anybody out there argues with the $50 annual price point if we see that kind of value added in with DLC packs alongside of all of the continued updated games that come along with the classic consoles that are available. So doing something like that, in my personal opinion, makes Nintendo a lot more competitive in their online offerings, especially when you compare it to things like Sony and Microsoft throwing out multiple free games per month just for being a subscriber. You add them to your library, you always have access to those games, and you can argue over the quality of some of them, but some of them are quality titles. We just got PlayStation Plus Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 fully announced and added to the service for the month of August, and it's like, okay, that's a fantastic like $40 to $60 game depending on where you find it at, and you just get it for being a PlayStation Plus subscriber. So you know what, Nintendo can continue to add more value into their expansion pack, and I think DLC may be a clever way to do it alongside of throwing in some of the cheaper eShop games. I wanted to see Kirby's Dream Buffet be added in as a free NSO game. I think that they should start to toy around with stuff like that in the future and really experiment with different things to help continue to build value for the service. But I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, all your personal thoughts and speculation with what Nintendo will do with the future of the DLC roadmap when we talk about things like NSO in the future. Are you personally a fan of having these DLC packs available for being a subscriber, or would you just personally always prefer to purchase DLC individually and it doesn't really drive you to subscribe one way or another? And bonus question, which DLC packs do you personally feel like make the most sense to continue to add into the service? And do you think Nintendo ultimately does a revolving door thing where certain DLC packs fall out of the service, or do they just always continue to add in more and more and ultimately just grow the library of content that is available to you, the consumer? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, where we discussed the brand new announcement for Wave Race 64 hitting Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, and a breakdown of what to expect when it comes to the roadmap of games, specifically on the N64 side going forward. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.